this is George and Lauda Leon of Sovereign Key. What we're going to be discussing today is a subject matter which is very close to our lives and close to our hearts, focusing on what is commonly referred to as Planet X, though if we're going to be more accurate, we'll be referring to it as the binary solar system, which forms part of our duality construct structure here. We do live within a realm of duality with a law of opposition in all things. And this is why we must emphasize that just as we have a sun which provides life, we also have its equal and opposite, which is the binary sun. And there's been a lot of debate over whether this celestial body exists, and we've known about it for a very, very long time. Lauda knew about it from incarnation. I had impressions within me from a little boy, and we're going to be speaking more so upon our own experiences because we know there's been a lot of discussion about this subject matter going on for many, many years now. And I have to emphasize that as far as my awareness goes, in having been a researcher and experiencer for many, many, many years, there has been no other subject matter which has brought in as much misinformation, disinformation, and organized groups that seek to muddy the waters and to bring in confusion than the subject matter of this binary solar system, which is inbound. So we will be speaking specifically about our own experiences. We're not going to regurgitate what so many have already, because like I said, there's been a lot of media pertaining to this subject over many years, and there's a lot of information out there, but we want to really just focus today on and touch upon our own experiences.
Yeah, for what we each individually have seen or been shown, and how this translates to the other information, which has to do with the sequence of events that are in conjunction with it. So
Okay.
the other thing is that I will be getting into another aspect of this, which is because this system that's coming in has everything to do with the convergence of the event horizon, but that also has to do with bringing up a topic that I really want to discuss, which is ascension and what it really is, because it isn't ascension. So I'll be getting into that more as well. And we're also going to get into some tips for people, some positive tips on how to prepare, on spiritual awareness, on the things to avoid, the things that would be really good to start focusing and doing for yourself and for those that are close to you, to help.
What we more so want to focus on with these testimonies is not fear, but in spiritual preparation, because really this is what it all comes down to, and also having a mindset which is not about clinging to the material world nor to the flesh, even though of course we have a vital role on how what we choose to perform in the flesh, because obviously that has everything to do with what we're here for and what we're here to aspire to. But ultimately, even though it is natural to feel fear, and it is one of the greatest things to try and overcome on multiple levels, part of what we aim to do is to condition people somewhat to the changes which are going to be inevitable, because they are already occurring. And there needs to be a preparation. As much as people don't like the idea of having to adapt to challenging changes, changes are happening right now. The governments have already tried to acclimatize people with the notions of climate change and that moniker that's been given. And all that has to do not with carbon emissions, but
Mhm.
ultimately the changes are going to be brought in via this incoming binary system. And it is inevitable because it is a part of the design here. The law of opposition in all things, hot, cold, bitter, sweet, light, dark. The designers brought this forward. It is their frame. Okay, we cannot change that. Okay, so yeah, go ahead.
And there are two competing systems that are happening with this event. And one of the competing systems is that the hologram reality that we are currently in, which is a simulation, they are attempting to create a more sophisticated version of this so that we can actually go into a higher, more sophisticated matrix where it's 3, 4, 5, 6D. Because the one that we're in right now is in between two universes, aka that means that there is still ability to get out. There is still ability to shift the hologram even with your consciousness, which is something that they don't want. If they insert us into a higher version of reality, into their 345D version quantum server, then that's not going to, it's going to be a lockdown system.
Are you referring to the transhumanistic agenda and what they're trying to?
The transhumanistic agenda is a part of that, but it's only a small part of it. That really isn't what I'm talking about an entire version of reality where they've created a new version of it, which is more sophisticated, which would translate everyone from the one that we're currently in to that higher version. They're trying to evade this new system that's coming in, because the new system that's coming in is designed to undo this.
The dissolution of
Right,
illusions.
exactly. So they're on a race. This is why they've incorporated and introduced now the 5G. I've been waiting for 5G since I've been born. 5G is a preliminary to this, a preliminary to them inserting this reality into the higher resolution, you could say, the much more sophisticated digital version of the simulation, of a simulation, not this one.
But how does that avoid being affected by the binary system?
Well, they can't. This is what I'm saying. But in their mind, they're using CERN, they're using technologies to try and evade it through wormholes and through all these different, to try and exit, essentially. So exit this and insert us into something different while still keeping themselves intact, right? But they're not going to be able to do it. So this is a really intense competition, and they know that the window is very, 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 very close. So there's only a slim amount of time for them to do all this. And it's been a really interesting, watching it from my point of view, because of what I've been shown, has been really, really fascinating. But they don't have a lot of time because the binary system is coming in. And I would even say the binary is also tertiary. It's not just binary, because you mean
trinary?
It's trinary, yeah. Because a part of what I was talking about, the whole ascension thing, plays into all of this, which is not ascension at all. And this plays into what this system that's coming in is, which is the binary and trinary.
Okay.
Versus, the artificial version, the artificial sophisticated version, which 5G is only it's like 5G is only a preliminary introduction, because they're not telling anybody that they already have the much more sophisticated version of the 5G.
It's my impression that all this 5G
Mm-hmm.
plus technology
Mm-hmm.
is all about getting people geared for the AI, which is coming in.
Yes.
And part of the AI harvesting mechanisms,
That's
the
part of
main
it.
system.
That's a part of it, but
and it's priming people for that.
Yep, that's a part of it, but it's priming them because the plan is to insert everybody through into the next sophisticated version of the infinity system realities, right? The matrices. That's the agenda of the architects, the same architects that are trying to escape, and they want to escape the binary system that's coming in, the new system that's coming in. They want to escape because what's coming in is not something that they can handle.
They're trying to avoid their own judgment.
Judgment is for them to be, you know, to be dead. They think that they can escape death. We're not talking about like the traditional version of judgment. We judge ourselves in this all. Whatever we've decided in this creation of what we live and have been living is what we base our judgment
Well, ultimately we choose.
Right. So
cause and effect. What has affected our lives.
Right.
Yeah. And that obviously that goes from the wider, higher perspective. Ultimately, we do choose, and we have chosen over many lifetimes where our bearings have been. And what is happening now in this day and age, so to speak, within the boundaries of time, is that now it's the culmination of many lifetimes. And eventually it all has to come to a close.
Exactly.
Though even during a harvesting, it is still a transformation of energy.
Yeah, totally.
You know, it doesn't just disintegrate. However, because
energy can't, you know, energy, once it's energy, you can't just disappear energy. So it has to be moved into something.
Yeah. Okay. So back to Planet X. We both had a very, very wide range of personal experiences in regards to our own preparation for this grand event, this culmination and the closing of the cycle. And this is why it has never been more vital to bear the awareness that you need to seek truth, to try avoid all the distractions, all the seductions, and everything that has been planted in front of us to derail us from our priorities, which is our spiritual path and our spiritual journey. Though, of course, we do have to be practical in life. You know, there are bills to pay and whatnot, but there does need to be a balance in terms of getting our priorities in order. And because the material in many ways is going to be dissolving and collapsing, and the adjustment will be in how we are nudged according to spirit. And because that will be your compass ultimately, and it will be your protection.
The imperative nature of getting in touch with not the ego and the soul memory and the things that you were talking about, the enticements and the things that are just distractions, but beginning to listen to your own compass, your spirit, and getting to know what the difference is between what that sounds like and your soul. And it's designed to override your spirit so that you think that the soul is your spirit and you go follow your soul, which is going to be the misleading aspect of, you know, everything you seek. So there is a distinction between what your spirit sounds like and how that guides you.
Yeah.
And how that even guides you through the different, even when you're asleep, your spirit communicates to you. So the more that you can be in the place where you can hear that, and people have asked me, well, and this is, you know, like I said, we want to talk about things to help people so that they can really use their tools to navigate through this all. And that's one of the greatest tools you will ever have. And people have asked me, so what does that sound like? Because some people can't hear it and they don't know what that sounds like. And I say always, well, the soul's pretty loud. You know, it is. It's actually, the soul's super loud.
Yeah. And
This,
chatty.
yeah, and it's busy. It's always busy. The spirit is like so gentle and so quiet that if you're not still, you won't even hear it. You just won't even hear it. The more you listen to it, the more you listen in the stillness, and you quiet your ego and you quiet your soul, the louder your spirit gets, until the point that that's really what you hear first and foremost. And when you don't, it's just, you know, it feels like the soul starts really feeling like the flesh.
Yeah.
So, and you know, some people say, well, what do? Do you meditate? Do you meditate for hours? No, I don't. Meditation is just a state of mind. If you choose to meditate, great, but you don't need to. So that isn't something that, there's a lot of people that are not capable of doing that. There's a lot of people that their minds just don't work that way. But there's little things that you can do to start quieting yourself down, and you can just start with baby steps.
Yeah.
So, and that's different for everybody. What that looks like is a little different, you know, depending on.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, everyone's program and everyone's past history is different in many respects. So one lot of advice won't work, just like the same dietary advice of one person won't work for another.
Yeah.
I mean, because people do need to be tailored according to their own
Yeah.
soul path.
Yeah.
And usually people know intuitively in many ways what is right for them, and because they will get a response, and that's the same with truth as well. When you seek truth and you come across truth, if you are connected to spirit at all, you're going to get pings.
Totally.
And this is why I do emphasize that people seek, because if you do not seek, there is no chance, or expose yourself to truth.
Yeah.
In seeking and researching, then you won't give yourself an opportunity to receive those pings, to then be encouraged to go further and to unlock, because this is part of what we're here for. It is to unlock and to remember.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because we're all coded.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's the part where, yeah, technology, the body is a technology, is we are full of codings.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
part of the game, so to speak, the game of life, is to follow your internal nudgings and your conscience.
Yeah.
Because that is given to us to be our compass. And what happens is, if you ignore that too many times, and you've got the world distracting you, seducing you away from where the primary focus should be, which is your, spiritually fine-tuning yourself, then you create a gap which is harder to bridge, and then it's harder to hear that voice.
That voice will answer everything you want to know. Your spirit has access to everything. There's nothing your spirit can't access.
Well, it's not bound to this containment system.
Not
It
bound
is
to
it is
anything.
beyond it.
It's not bound to anything.
But obviously, it can access all the inner dimensions
I mean, it
that are
can
part of
be,
this realm.
right, but it can be in all places at the same time.
Exactly.
So there is no limitation to it. The more that you connect with that, the more you can hear everything.
Yeah.
So it's going to be vital when all this starts happening that people are in a position where they can do that, because their spirits are going to be telling them where to go, what to do.
Yeah.
They're going to be getting prompted to do whatever. I mean, but if you can't hear it, it would be like your spirit's telling you, but you can't hear it, so you're just going to be doing something different.
Well, I look at it as akin to your bearing, your frequency.
Mm-hmm.
It's like being tuned to a particular station, and there is a station of truth, where truth resides, where that connection. And some people are, through their practices, through listening to conscience and bringing themselves into a more positive alignment with the station and the virtues of the evolved heavens, I'll call it, for just for simplicity's sake.
Mm-hmm.
the places which are beyond this containment system, then once you are attuned to that,
Mm-hmm.
then
Mm-hmm.
it becomes a lot easier to recognize the traps, the snares, the lies,
Mm-hmm.
the seductions,
Mm-hmm.
even the beings that may enter your space,
Mm-hmm.
which you will be able to detect. And it doesn't matter how they may appear or how they might sound,
Mm-hmm.
or what they're transmitting to you. If it doesn't have the resonance, which if they're not benevolent, they will not have a matching resonance, and your spirit on board with you will detect it immediately.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And this is why
Mm-hmm.
our spiritual alignment is everything. It
Mm-hmm.
is everything, because that is what is going to see you through, and it will be your protection. Yeah, it will be your compass. It will guide you where you need to be long before things get out of hand, so to speak.
And the spirit has to be in alignment with your body reality here, even though it's a hologram. It's still, you need to be in unison between the two. It can't be imbalanced. You can't
No.
be more spirit, and because that happens too. That happened to me. And I was told I had until such and such time to merge the two.
Yeah.
Otherwise I would be a failure because I'd be too much spirit.
Balance.
So if you're too much spirit or you're too much body, you're not in.
Well, you have to be grounded here as well, because we are in the flesh and we do have the role in the flesh. And if we were too much in wanting to be in the ether,
Yeah.
then you're probably just going to want to die.
Yeah.
And you won't be able to tolerate life here at all, and
Right.
you'll just crumble.
Absolutely. So the strength of merging both bodies, because this is about merging all your bodies within the experience of these vessels, because that's what we chose. We chose to experience everything through these vessels, and this is our filter system. This is where we bring all our bodies together, and through that, what is going to happen with this new system coming in? It's the becoming.
Well, these are where the dimensional levels are collapsing.
Right. All of
And
it
this
is collapsing all the
yes.
way into here. And so this is why it's not going the reverse. It's not collapsing out. It's collapsing literally all here. All.
And that's where the wars in the heavens come to earth.
Yeah, exactly.
Because of that. And this becomes the last bastion of our experience.
Right.
In the
But
flesh.
we are the war in heaven. We are actually the war in heaven.
Well, we're currently battling that on multi density
But
levels.
It's us. But it's us. It's us, and it's over us, and it's in us, and it's as above, so below, because this is where this whole concept of ascension I want to discuss at the end, and what happened at the beginning of this war of the heavens, which we're going to end with when we're finished with Planet X and the binary trinary system, because
well, don't introduce the trinary unless you're going to explain it, sweetie.
When you say the binary system is related to the current system of reality right now. This binary system would be an equivalent to this version of reality. The trinary system is, the only way I can explain it is that it would be like, instead of 3D, it's 4, it's 5, it's 6D. It's like, it's all Ds in one.
Okay.
So it's like having a system that comes in, which expands us so that we're capable in the body to receive and perceive all dimensions, not just, a few in compartments, not just a few in the binary perception. We are, this is the problem with binary systems. It's related to this version of the matrices. The trinary is related to the expansion, which this is what we're going through. We're going through that ourselves. So
okay, so explain what you mean by expansion.
Okay, so perception. Your perception, the way that your mind works, you're binary right now. Your perception is based on binary reality. And it's also a part of the simulation here. Okay, it's a part of the hologram. It's a part of the way that the frequencies in the design are created. And you, therefore, are absorbing those codes based on that binary system.
Okay.
You can't perceive anything outside of that currently because you don't have the incoming system to expand you.
Yeah, because it's based on the current
Right,
programming and the current design
right.
of our technology, which is our
Exactly.
brain, our mind, our body.
Limited, like the vision is only
Yes.
like created so
Yes.
that we
Only certain spectrums. Yeah.
in the space,
Yeah.
all of that. This is going to be blown open by the trinary system because along with the binary comes the trinary to expand and explode us into a much higher version of our being.
Okay. So you're saying that the trinary system is the evolved,
Yes.
the place of evolution,
Yeah.
the next
Yeah.
graduating step.
Right.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. I just wanted to get that clarified. That's all, because a lot of people haven't heard of trinary. So I think it's important that yeah, that gets explained somewhat, so
Very,
as not to confuse. Yeah.
and I'm happy I
Um,
have you so that you, because you know, my mind goes there and I don't always,
well, that's the thing, because to you, it's just, you know, it just is. But to another person, they haven't heard of
yeah,
such an idea before,
yeah.
and it would just be conceptual to them.
Mhm.
But for you, it's how you've always known the frame to be. Um, and another reason why it's important that we emphasize the holographic nature of this reality is because with what's going to come in and the way it's going to come in, it's going to shock a lot of people, because the way things can enter here, even celestial objects, they can enter and break through the dimensional veils because it is a holographic reality.
Exactly.
And the way it, I mean, the things that I've been shown, well, like, it really is like just something unzipping in the sky and just
Well,
being like literally like a computer game that you
right.
would see, and it just pops in
Hmm.
into the field.
Well, I want you to talk, well, we're both going to talk about what we've been shown and what we've seen. But a great way to introduce this is I'm going to explain my experiences when I was a child and when I was a teenager, because this is this is this is the way that we are going to explain how everything else is going to happen through the hologram. Now, I would lapse into these experiences in waking time, like while I was at school and I was young. The first time this happened to me, I was 8 years old. And I was actually at recess. When my frequency would spin really, really fast, which happened a lot when I was growing up, like ever since I was born, because one of the conditions about me coming in is that I needed a special kind of body to handle my frequency, because otherwise the body would expire.
Okay.
So this body was equipped for that, which means that like I spun high. My cells, my atoms spun very quickly, very fast at a very high velocity. All the atoms of this body.
How
My
could you tell?
Because you feel it, because you're spinning at a high velocity and it's very painful. So there's no like, you can't stop it. You just have to you have to get through it.
Okay.
So when these spins would really accelerate, everything around me would get really slow, but I would spin really, really fast, and everything would start really slowing down to the point where it would stop. So in essence, and this is completely waking time. So when you see, this is what was flipping me out when I started seeing movies where they were depicting, um, everything would slow down, where people with superpowers would be able to just go in and and pick up the bullet. It's like that.
Yeah.
Everything stops.
Mm-hmm.
And the hearing, the sound is also completely almost muted, and it's almost like traveling through a really long tunnel, so that if somebody says something, you don't even know what it is, because it just sounds like, so you can't know what anybody's trying to tell you. Anyway, when this would happen, things would happen to me. I started being able to see through everything. You have to imagine, okay, my earth body, my hologram body is 8. So I was getting accustomed just being in it, let alone and being in this realm, which was very different than what I was accustomed to. So when I started witnessing this, I could see through everything, literally. And every single thing that had a shape had a like a design, a frequency that was the building design of whatever you were looking at, but it was all hollow space. And like the atoms would dance around it. So whatever the design was of every shape of everything was just a dancing frequency
Mm-hmm.
with space. And that included Earth. So I would look down and I would see through the entire Earth, through, and it would just kept going like ad infinitum. I could see through everything. Literally everything was a hologram.
So yeah, ultimately these atoms,
Mm-hmm.
as you go deeper and deeper into them, it's just nothingness. It's space. So
It's
really,
just
this
space.
is what we say. It's an illusionary
It's a
world.
space. So like if you have a pen, whatever you have, it doesn't matter what you have. It just the outline design of this would be like little dancing electrons.
Yeah.
Okay, with space, but the electrons are space too. They're just electrified. Okay, and it's in the shape of this.
Yeah.
Everything's just hollow and space, and it's dark space. And that's what I saw, everything through the earth, all of it. There was not one single solid.
But the thing I want to emphasize is just because we're speaking about the construct along these lines, that does not mean that it does not have a higher purpose and a very
Exactly. Yes.
because because the path of evolution is still the most meaningful thing that there is, you know. But this is just the vehicle by which we are traveling upon our path of evolution.
And this is
And
where our consciousness is in the vehicle.
yeah,
It doesn't matter where the vehicle is. It can be in a server. It can be in digital simulation. It doesn't matter what that platform is.
because, and the reason I feel the need to emphasize that is because some people might listen to that and just think, okay, well, hey, if it's all a dream, it's all an illusion, then who gives a shit? Let's just do what we want.
Mm-hmm.
And no,
No,
that's
because
not where we're going with this at all.
no, not at all. But so here's where I started comprehending more exactly the nature. These were my quantum metaphysics lessons that I was being served as a child, because I had to be shown all of that in order to comprehend the nature of this, because it was very new to me. Being here was very new, and seeing what I saw and what I was basically waiting for my entire life here, if I didn't have a comprehension of all of that, I wouldn't really be able to piece together everything I was shown. So as a result, I had this happen quite a lot into my teens. And I never knew when it would happen. It would just come over my body. I had to just wait it out, because in order for everything to solidify back again, my frequency had to stop um, spinning at that high velocity. It had to slow itself down. And when it slowed itself down enough, then my body and everything would materialize again.
Okay. So you had no control over that. That would just come over you.
Yeah.
Were you able to manipulate that yourself if you wanted to?
I never was able to manipulate it. I mean,
Okay.
it had everything to do with my frequency spinning and accelerating at such a, but I never knew My atoms, my frequency would always spin higher than everybody else's,
Yep.
but it was a difference between that and then going into complete, super acceleration. And I never knew what would cause that because it was happening to me a lot.
Yep.
And when that would happen, sometimes it would attract electricity to me, which was really dangerous because I had to be really careful with storms, with lightning.
Mm-hmm.
I had to be very, very careful because lightning would come to me.
Okay.
So this is all electromagnetic. It's almost like I became electricity in essence. So that that continued until my teens, and as I was getting older, my frequency started slowing down. So by the time I was in my 20s,
Mm-hmm.
it was more tolerable, but it was very, very uncomfortable, very painful, and I dreaded it. I dreaded it with everything in my being because it's one of the worst feelings in your physicality to go through that,
Yep.
because you don't know if you're going to come back. You don't know who's, like, you don't know how it's all happening. So there's no control. And so you don't know what the laws are with relation to, well, what's causing the frequency to slow down so that everything solidifies for me again. Because when this happened to me, one of the times it happened, and I know people are going to have a hard time believing this. Remember I told you this when we first met years ago. And I know people are going to have a hard time believing it, but this is true, and there are witnesses. One of the times that this happened, I put my arms through the school wall. It was recess, and I was outside, and I put my arms through the wall, and I put my body in. And then when I went into the wall, now the teacher that was at recess, walking around all the kids, all started screaming because to their eye, they saw me going into the wall, the side wall of the school, and I disappeared inside.
How old are you?
When that one happened, I was 11.
Okay. So what compelled you to actually put your hand through a wall?
Because everything was space. Because
Oh,
I
okay.
saw through everything and I knew I could. And like I was testing everything, because when this is happening to you, you have to understand, like, on the one hand, I'm in a physical body. On the other hand, I'm accelerated to the point where everything is just space, including me. So, and yet I know I'm here, but what's keeping me here? Why didn't I go through the earth? Why didn't my body go through the earth? Because everything was space. And because so I had to feel things out. I could see the outline of the wall because, like I say, everything, all the electrons have the shape. So it's all like, like it's like neon, little colored neon.
Yeah.
Taking the shape of things, but all space. It's all a hologram with dark space. So I was like, okay, like, I'm going in because it's all space. And this is how I learned about stuff. But once I was inside, in my mind, I was freaking out because I thought, whoa, what's going to cause it to solidify? And then I'll get trapped in there, just like Philadelphia experiment,
Yep.
which I found out about years later because I was so desperately researching this kind of thing. I wanted to know if it happened to anybody else, and I found and discovered the Philadelphia experiment, that they did it through technology. Well, we are the technology, so guess what? We can do this. But I was a kid. So when I was in there, the moment the thought came into my head that if the frequency started decelerating while I was in there, it would start solidifying things and I would get trapped. And that thought was so terrifying to me, and I pulled myself out of the wall, and to the teacher that was out there and all the kids, because back then it would be 2 teachers that would patrol the area with the kids playing in recess.
Mm-hmm.
And they all witnessed it. They saw me going out of the wall and then going back into the wall because I was trying it out again. And then the second time I pulled myself out, then I looked through the ground and I saw through everything. Then I realized, well, what's holding me up? what is this that is holding me in place when everything is space?
Mm-hmm.
Shouldn't I just fall in forever and just keep falling forever? What is holding everything here? So this was really, I mean, I'm 11 years old.
Yeah. I'm just trying to imagine the looks on all the other children's faces.
Well, when all of the atoms and my frequency started decelerating and everything started solidifying, because they were all screaming like crazy. But because everything was slowed down, I can't hear the screams like that, because like I said, it's like a big tunnel.
Everything is altered.
So as things solidified more and more and more and more until everything just like it goes back in. I don't know how to explain it. It goes back in like
Compresses.
yeah, and then once you're back in, then the perception as per this normalizes, and then you're back to hearing things, and you're back to seeing and perceiving in this field. But that's when I could hear all the screams, and the kids were running in terror, like freaking right out. And of course I was taken into the principal's office, and then I was actually expelled until they could figure out, like, because they were all freaking out. They didn't know what to do. It was a Catholic school I was at in White Oaks. Okay, that kind of narrows it down.
And did the rest of the kiddies, get the day off school as a result of the
well, I don't know what happened to them. I know what
head
happened.
shaken up?
Well, I don't know what happened to them. I know what happened to me, and I was sent home. So, and
did they call a doctor? Like, did they?
Yes, they had called a psychologist to go to the house and see me.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up having this person who's a psychologist come to the house, and their job was to talk to me, and I refused to talk to them. So there wasn't really much for them to do, because I went mute. Like, I went completely mute, and I knew not to trust them. So it was one of those cases where they don't know what to do. They're afraid.
Mm-hmm.
I was home for a few days until, they were like trying to figure out, is this possible? Did we really see this? It's too much for people to handle. So what happens in their mind, they go into this survival mode, and then they tell themselves, this is impossible. Like, the mind begins to play tricks on you and tells you, well, you didn't really see that. So children, the kids that were there, they were basically quite young and probably more teachable in terms of, being able to be told, and more accepting, mind you. Okay, kids are more accepting. They learn fear from adults. If a child sees that, if they have fear, the fear is going to come from the adult most of the time, because they tend to be curious. But the teachers were screaming.
Oh, okay.
So if the teachers are screaming, the kids are going to scream. They're going to say something's wrong here.
Something's wrong. Yeah.
This example has to do with what you were saying about how the system can come through a hologram to give people an idea.
Yeah.
It just gives a background for people, which I think they need. So.
Oh yeah, well that's it. I mean, what we're doing now is we're just trying to lay down the groundwork so people can try and grasp some of these aspects of the celestial workings, because there's a lot of occurrences which are going to take place which will defy the known laws of physics, and what would be called theoretical, quantum occurrences, but in terms of what has they can actually test and apply and experiment with based on what they've revealed in the mainstream, then no, the way things are going to be happening would be deemed impossible.
Yeah.
So this is why, I'm glad that you gave that anecdote, because that is how it is based around that. It is a program. It is a virtual reality system. In a sense.
Yeah.
And the designers and the architects can insert things when they are given the authority to do so.
Mhm.
And that will occur at certain juncture points,
Mhm.
depending on where the level of consciousness is, and of course, the way the gears are run here, the cyclical nature of things. Everything has its season. That's part of the design too.
Yeah.
Okay, everything works according to its placements and its allotments.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there is our will in amongst that as spiritual beings, you know.
Yeah.
So I want to just go now into some of the evidentiary-based occurrences that I've experienced.
Yeah.
Again, so this is going to be stuff that's just unique to my own experiences. The first thing I'll bring up is, for those of us who've been following us, you'd be aware that we have been active in clone-based operations based on covert projects. And there was this one experience that I had. This was going back several years now. Like I said, everything that I'm going to say now is basically, I didn't need this evidence. I already knew about that I was going to be living through a time of great change and upheaval in the world, and that I would be witness to that. I knew that from a little boy. Okay, I can say from when I was 5, 6 years old, when living in Australia, I was wearing sweaters in mid 30 to 40 degree Celsius days because I was telling myself I need to adapt to the heat.
Mhm.
I mean, again, it defied any normal, logic, but I knew what I knew inside. I had the impressions within me. It was coded within my own DNA and my own soul and my spirit knowing. So everything that happened after that was just serving as confirmations and giving me an indicator that the more that these things are brought to me, that the closer we are to these happenings being relevant.
And then when we met, I told you what I had been shown, that things would accelerate in heating, the sun would intensify. In terms of what you were talking about when you were a child, one of the confirmations that was a huge confirmation was when we met, and I told you about the things that I was shown, and one of them was that the sun would accelerate and become very hot. And so it would heat up the world, but certain locations more so than others. And I was shown Australia particularly.
Yes.
And it blew your mind when I told you, because I said things are just going to be like unbelievable. People will not believe it, that, because of what the sun is going to be doing. And it confirmed, because you as a child were wearing all these sweaters in the summer because you were acclimatizing yourself, because you were prepared knowing that this was going to happen. So that was,
well, yeah, that was my way of preparing myself.
and that was one of the biggest confirmations that you had, because you never had said anything about that to me. I didn't know anything.
No.
And this was at the beginning when, I was revealing to you the stuff that
Well, that's the thing, because you came in with more remembrance. So I just had things more sort of on the periphery, and I couldn't always explain why, but I would do certain things and I would act in certain ways or seek out certain things as well, even in my research, but not quite knowing why. But I knew that, for example, I knew on the periphery, yes, I was going to be living during a time of great upheaval, great change, and I just knew that this would be witnessed, and I had to prepare myself. And I've been in a state of waiting my whole life.
Yeah.
And only to now does it feel so tangible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that will only accelerate and intensify as time goes by, in the illusion of time, of course, within the framework of time, the boundaries of time, which we in flesh are existing under. To go back to my experience, what I'm about to outline now was based on either what I witnessed within a clone or part of a remote viewing operation. I was witness to a meeting and a presentation that was taking place. And I don't know where it was, but I did recognize who was in this meeting, and it was a big time pop star, one of the Musketeers. he being linked to Britney Spears. I'm not going to name names. And he or me as a viewer, me being witness to a small group being shown a presentation by a male in his 40s, and he had two diagrams on a placard of the red Kachina and the blue Kachina, and that was the topic of discussion.
Mhm.
And it was probably a small group of about probably 10 people within this room, and they were being briefed
Mhm.
on the red Kachina, blue Kachina.
Mhm.
For those who don't know, the red Kachina it goes by many names. It is the binary sun,
Mhm.
known as the Destroyer, the Red Dragon, Nemesis,
Mhm.
Wormwood
Mhm.
is the reference in the Bible.
Mhm.
Many, many names that the ancients spoke of and was passed down. But again, I don't want to go into all the rehashed information, but that was one experience. My own direct experience, this was a time where I was deliberating within myself whether I was going to start a website and start going public in giving warnings about this incoming system, this binary system. And I decided I wasn't going to, because all I had was my own experiences. And I figured, okay, I'm going to sound like a crazy person to most people. And this is going back in 2009, where I had this idea to start this up. 2 days after I decided I wasn't going to go through with it, I had a next of kin give me an account of a party they went to. Now, this next of kin, I had spoken to them about this subject matter, and they decided they befriended someone at this party. I didn't know who they were. My next of kin didn't know who they were. It was just a chance meeting. And they winded up bringing up the discussion based upon what I had told my next of kin, which was about the binary system. Anyway, it just so happens that the person they were talking to made a confession that their son was an astrophysicist. And they gave the confirmation that this binary system does exist and is real. No dates were given about the passage. It wasn't asked. It wasn't volunteered. Obviously, this is secondary evidence. But like I said, I had already had dreams, visions, an inner knowing as a child, all these upheavals that were going to take place. Again, this was just, and I felt that that was given to me to prompt me, because I don't believe in accidents nor coincidences. And I felt that I was meant to receive that to prompt me to set up this website, which I did do ultimately. I've shut that down now, but it was in existence since 2009. One thing that I learned from that experiences is that not to try and pinpoint specifics in terms of dates of when this passage will be. And I would urge caution to be wary of anybody that does try and put out specifics in terms of months or even the year of when this passage is going to occur, because usually the good spirit and the good family, who often guide and show revealings, and our higher self as well, it usually works on the subtle. It won't work on giving specifics like that. Usually the mind control projects will work along those lines, where they will target people and give them their subjects.
That's exactly.
To derail and to cast confusion and ridicule over the subject.
Just like those religious cult leaders,
Yeah, we won't name names, but there's plenty. There's been plenty out there. And yeah, the temptation is great to try and pinpoint this, because obviously lives are at stake, flesh lives in the material world are at stake. And so I'm not going to fault anyone for trying to pinpoint in a sense of their own preparation efforts. And I was one of those people as well that was trying to do the same, because that's just our nature. We're curious.
Mm-hmm.
And once you're given something, you're like, and something that you've been waiting for pretty much your whole life. I mean, that there is that element in you that wants to know.
Mm-hmm.
But I would urge caution about, you know, even people who feel that they've come across certain, you know, even scientific evidence. Be very, very careful in putting out messages which could discredit the truth that
I
this
don't think
binary system does exist.
Yeah, and I don't think that's where the importance lies with this, in knowing, because if you're going to be obsessed with the date, you're bypassing your own work, and you're bypassing what you need to live, and we need to live in the now.
Yes, absolutely.
Everything has to be in the now. So we aren't really supposed to know. Even as per what I was shown, I can tell more or less within a time frame, within a span of years, judging by how I looked.
Yes.
But that's about it.
Yeah. And obviously you've been shown a sequence of events, so you know that once this event takes place, then the next is going to, and that's following.
Yes.
So that's where you know,
Mm.
are different from others, because you've been allowed to know more and been shown more than the regular person. But as the Bible says, you know, I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and you know, you will dream dreams and whatnot. And a lot of people, I mean, if you just go on YouTube, a lot of people are providing their testimonies about what they've been shown. And I might as well just provide mine. What I was shown is that this system, yes, it's the binary sun, and it is its own solar system. So it does have accompanying objects, and I was shown, from the best of my recall, 7 to 8 objects which are in tow and that will be visible. And the way it was shown to me, and this is where I feel it was from a good place, is that there was a lot of symbolism that was shown. So it was actually showing me a lot in one frame. And what I was shown is that when this binary system is visible, that is when they're going to be initiating the wars.
Totally. Yeah.
And I was shown that they will be closing borders at this time, and there will be the tactical nuclear strikes initiated, not big kabooms, tactical nuclear strikes, because it is all part of corralling people.
Yeah.
It's part of maneuvering and strategizing the
And
chess
how
pieces.
old were you when you were shown this? Because
okay, I was probably about 27, 28 years old.
Yeah. And then when I came in, and then I told you what I was shown, which was,
mirrored that.
Mirrored,
yes.
and confirmed. Yeah, that was.
Well, you were shown a scene more recently, if
Sure.
you know what I'm referencing, where the object was very large, like, and obviously that's when its influence was more direct.
Yeah. No, I saw it completely. Because the one is very large and it's closer than the others, and the others. You know, are you referring to that where it was like?
I'm referring to the sun. That you actually the binary sun.
Yes.
And you said it was huge.
Massive. Massive. Yeah. Massive.
Can you describe what you had felt? Like, were you given a sense of, like, you could feel the temperature, or any of the sensory perceptions that came with the view?
Yeah, it was almost as though everything became sharper, clearer, and that by virtue of its pull, it changed the way we perceived how we felt everything and how we saw everything. So it just blew that open.
Yes. Everything gets altered.
Yeah.
By the influences of this system.
Yeah.
Including our technology of the flesh and the mind and all of it.
Yeah.
And again, this is where we have to emphasize our spiritual bearings, because a lot of people will have a very, very hard time if they're not in alignment. They're going to have a very hard time with these incoming energies, and a lot of people will be prey to madness even, and and obviously that's talking about the more extreme
Mhm.
symptomologies, but a lot of people who have denied the reality of things and denied the truth and rejected the truth and not sought it out and have embraced ignorance,
Mhm.
they're going to have a very difficult time with the changes that are going to be accelerating, and also what is going to be released
Mhm.
as part of the negative agendas, which
Yeah.
certain factions are going to be initiating, coinciding with these celestial influences.
Yeah. And what is happening is, because everything is already working towards preparing for this, the energies that are coming in and the waves that are coming in are helping us to accelerate our DNA, because through the acceleration of our DNA, our minds are able to open up. So the chemicals in our system, the hormones, everything they have to change, literally, themselves. Our cells have to change. We have new information coming in.
Yeah.
So this expansion, retraction, expansion is to alter everything so that we can literally be synonymous with this refining. And that through this refining, it's a density occurring.
Well, this is what this whole system is. It's representative of
Exactly.
the Lord of the harvest. Because, again, in the Bible, you've got to read through what is literal, what is metaphor, what is allegory. The Lord of the harvest is the judge. When this system comes in,
Mm-hmm.
the way it influences you is going to, like, where you're at.
Yeah.
That's gonna determine what happens. Are you going to be upgrading? Are you going to be downgrading?
Right. And this is
It
where
becomes the catalyst.
right. And this is where I talk about the two cell splitting. Okay, I keep referring to this because this is what's happening. So those two frequencies are now creating a divide in the sand. And what people are experiencing is that they're no longer able to stay friends with their old friends, or there's just a parting of ways occurring because the frequencies can no longer tolerate one another.
No.
In the past, they could tolerate one another. They could see the differences, but now that divide that is occurring, it's occurring in all levels, as above, so below, literally.
Yes.
The universe is doing this. The infiniverse is doing this, as the infiniverse of ourselves is doing this. So this is now becoming a separation in frequency itself. And in those two things are creating two split cells of existence. One will be able to, and is synonymous with all these changes, and everything inside us is literally expanding and retracting through the changes, including our minds, the chemical synapses in our brains, and how we perceive things is like expanding, retracting, so we can handle what's coming. And it's the trinary system. Now, in the other cell, it's the reverse. They're decelerating. They can't handle the expansion or the retraction. So it's going to result in adversity, chaos. It's going to result in all of the negative aspects of the undoing.
Exactly, and this is why I do want to emphasize that all these changes are not doom and gloom.
No.
Okay, because
No.
ultimately you are the creator of your verse. So what you have chosen in your life and your bearing and your alignment
Mm-hmm.
and your frequency, not to sound new agey or anything, but that will determine exactly where you are guided to,
Mm-hmm.
what your experiences will be, your state of mind,
Mm-hmm.
how much grace you will bear. Doesn't matter how big the storm.
And where are you going?
Exactly. And would you like to speak about what has been prepared with the new earth?